What's up, everybody? Welcome in. Hammer here with Biscuits and SEC. We have another solo show tonight as Bossman is still gallivanting around Europe. I think he's in Italy at the moment. So anyway, still me back on the home front, taking care of this live stream. So before we hop into it, as always, want to encourage everybody to sign up for our newsletter. If you're not, it's free. You can see the link down below, or you can just Google Biscuits and SEC, go to our website, and there'll be a pop-up. We send that out weekly at the moment, every Wednesday morning. During the season, we'll hop back to twice a week. And we're brought to you tonight by the Steer Agency. So appreciate those guys for supporting the show. We got a good show for you tonight. We'll talk a little bit, as you can see over there on our rundown. We'll talk a little bit of super regional baseball action, and the field is now set, of course, for Omaha. And big news, I think it broke last Friday night, Saturday morning, somewhere in there, with the House Settlement coming down. Finally, we've been waiting for that for quite a while. We've been told that will be passed eventually, and we had a pretty good idea of what it would look like, but it is finally here. So we have a little bit to talk about on that front as well. All of our favorite topics, I'm sure, legal, college athletics chatter. So without further ado, we can hop into it. So Super Regionals and College World Series. So as we detailed on last week's show, and as I'm sure everyone knows, we had a record 13 SEC teams make the postseason in college baseball, and 9 of which got sent packing in the regional round. And then we had 4 coming back in or 4 advance onto the Super Regional. So you had Auburn hosting Coastal Carolina, LSU hosting West Virginia, and then Arkansas and Tennessee squaring off in Fayetteville. So results from the weekend, again, as I'm sure you've seen, as we know who's going to Omaha, but Auburn, really tough weekend for the Tigers. Number 4 national seed, fantastic season for the Tigers, and just could not get it done. Coastal Carolina really took it to them. The Chanticleers, the Chants, however you say it, they beat Auburn 7-6 in game 1 in extra innings, which was just a brutal, really tough loss. And then they won game 1 4-1. So unfortunately, Auburn wins their regional, hosts a super regional, and then kind of goes out without a whimper. But that's just baseball. In a 3-game series, you never know, who's going to win. Obviously, that's the whole point. So good on Coastal Carolina. That's a great program. They've won the College World Series. I think it was 2016, and I believe that was the last time they were in Omaha. So no real shame in losing to a program like that. But obviously unfortunate for Auburn. On the flip side, LSU handled their business against West Virginia. So the Tigers were battling some weather delays, rain delays down in Baton Rouge, but didn't really have any issue with West Virginia. The Tigers won game 1 16-9 and game 2 12-5. So they will be back in Omaha, and I know I think it's a pizza place, but the bar up there, Rocco's, that does the Jell-O shot contest, is, of course, thrilled to see LSU back on the docket because those folks love to drink. They always go to Rocco's and pretty much win that Jell-O shot competition. And they also have a billionaire booster in Raising Cane's founder, Todd Graves, who, if needed, will chip in thousands of dollars to make sure that LSU wins the Jello Shot Challenge. So they're going back to Omaha. That's, I mean, every couple of years, right? You can pretty much count on LSU to be in the mix, if not in Omaha, just about every year. So business as usual for the Tigers in Fayetteville. So Arkansas hosting Tennessee. This one, similarly, Arkansas kind of handled their business. Game one was super competitive. Tempers were kind of flaring. I really don't get into all the back and forth about whatever sportsmanship or taunting or whatnot, but I know the Tennessee baseball team does drive a lot of folks, a little bit crazy. But they were humbled this weekend because Arkansas was ready. They were jawing right back at Tennessee, beat them 4-3 in game one, and then cruised 11-4 in game two. So again, Arkansas kind of handled their business. Arkansas hasn't. It's been a couple years since they've been to Omaha. I'd have to look it up to confirm, but another program that's always right around it and in the mix. So not surprising. A little unfortunate. We only see two SEC teams in the final 8 in Omaha, but again, it's baseball. Postseason baseball, in particular in college, is very volatile. So not really surprising. I mean, heck, we even saw North Carolina, the 5 national seed, who had a phenomenal year. Honestly, if you'd asked me who I thought was like the best bet to get to Omaha, obviously, once you get there, anything can happen. But I did not think North Carolina would have any trouble with Arizona, and they beat them game one and then lost the next 2. So again, very unpredictable. But we got our final results. So here's a nice graphic courtesy of our friends over at SEC Baseball. So you've got your final 8 here that are making the trip to Omaha. Louisville coming out of the ACC, Oregon State, phenomenal baseball program. I don't even know what conference they play baseball in anymore. Maybe the WAC, or maybe they don't play in a conference. I have no idea, but that's a perennial powerhouse program in baseball, which is super surprising given, what's going on in their athletic department and just geographically speaking, like, amazing job that they do out there on the baseball diamond. So not surprised to see them. Arizona, definitely surprising, coming out of the Big 12 and again taking down UNC. You got Coastal, great baseball program. They took out Auburn. UCLA, coming out of the Big 10, I guess you would say, which is still weird to say, not used to that, but they're making a trip to Omaha. That's I don't think they've been very good lately, but that's certainly, historically been a solid program, with just their proximity to LA. And they took out UTSA, Texas San Antonio, in their Super Regional they hosted. Very surprisingly, you have Murray State, who took out Duke in 3 games in the Durham regional or Super Regional. Murray State was the 4 seed coming out of the Ole Miss Regional, and they have punched a ticket to Omaha. So fantastic run by Murray State. I got to be honest, I don't even know where Murray State is. Maybe Kentucky. Total guess. But good for them. Cinderella run for Murray State, whatever their mascot is. And then again, LSU and Arkansas to round out the top 8. So honestly, of that group, I would say I really like, in terms of, teams to make a run. If I had to pick one, I would say LSU is probably my favorite. I think they are the betting favorite in Vegas. Behind them, I would probably go. I would say it's a toss-up for me between Arkansas, Coastal, and Oregon State. I think all 3 of those have a great chance. I would be surprised if a Louisville, Arizona, UCLA, or Murray State ultimately is crowned champions at the end. But again, we'll see. You never say never. I gosh, it was a long time ago, but I think there was a 4 seed back in the day, Fresno State, maybe around like 2008 or something, that won it all. So don't give up hope, Murray State. There's definitely a chance. You've made it to Omaha, so all you got to do is win a couple more games. So that'll be exciting. The action will kick off there on Friday, and we'll go through the weekend, and then the following weekend we'll get the final series. So super exciting stuff there. Definitely if you're an Arkansas or LSU fan. So time will tell. I think the SEC's won 3 or 4 national titles in a row. So we'll see if LSU and Arkansas can keep that tradition going of just SEC dominance in Omaha. All right. So we're about 11 minutes in, and now we can go into our main topic. We'll probably end a little under an hour tonight, just with it being a solo show again. Also don't have a ton of, newsworthy stuff. So we'll see how long I ramble on about the House settlement, but I do have quite a bit to say on the House settlement. So to get things started, I'll just level set here and let everybody know what is going on, I guess, what the deal is, right? So again, this House settlement has been rumored, talked about, planned for, and there's been quite a bit of awareness about it because it was making its way through the courts. And essentially the impetus for this is the NCAA has been sued many times over by former athletes who were not able to profit off their name, image, and likeness at the time they were in school. So in lieu of paying all these athletes back, they have come to a settlement, right? Just like a civil case where somebody gets accused of something and they settle for an undisclosed amount of money. This is very similar to that, I think, at least. So if you're a lawyer, feel free to comment and tell me how big of an idiot I am, because I didn't go to law school and I don't know anything about the law. I am just reading about this and trying to get my head around it. But that's what I think the situation is. So the first clause, I don't know what you want to call it, the first line item of this settlement is the back pay to former athletes. So I don't know all the nitty gritty of who's going to get these payments, but we will, or who exactly it will be, but it's basically athletes from 2016 to 2024, and they're going to get $2.8 billion in back pay for lost NIL compensation, again, spread out over a lot of different athletes. So I don't know how much that amounts to per athlete or who's eligible or how you become eligible. But again, it's probably like one of those big class action lawsuits against a company that, you poisoned our water or a pesticide. If you opt into this settlement, you end up getting a $20 check or whatever it is. It's probably more than that, but you get the idea. The next line item is what this means moving forward, or all the next line items. But moving forward, so for this season, schools will now have a $20.5 million of cash they can pay athletes directly. That number should go up year after year because they do have escalation clauses built into the settlement. So, each year it'll go up, 3%, 4%. And it's also based on a percentage of revenue from average Power 4 schools. I don't know exactly what schools, if it was all of them or which one specifically they were using to calculate this, but it's just 22. The amount is supposed to be 22%, roughly 22% of, the overall athletic revenues for, the average Power 4 university. So that's where that money comes from. And it's uniform across the board, right? So if you're Ohio State and you make a lot more money, or you're Texas and you make a lot more money than, say, Boston College or Wake Forest or Kansas State or whatever, doesn't matter. The $20.5 million is uniform. So all schools have this supposed to begin July 1st. They'll have $20 million in the bank to distribute to athletes directly across the entire athletic department. So that's the next thing. Most people that I have been reading, watching, listening to think that 90% about of that 20.5 million is going to go to football and basketball, the only two revenue sports. So that would make sense that they're going to get the lion's share of the pie there. So for those, math people out there, somewhere around 13 to 15 allocated probably for football. But again, totally up to the schools, I think, as to how they would like to distribute that. So the next two line items are quite interesting and probably what we'll spend the most time talking about, especially when it comes to potential legal troubles down the road, because unfortunately, I don't think this solves all the issues or will be the last we see the NCAA or whatever this new entity is in legal trouble. And we got a couple comments coming in. Oh man, my guy Rick, he sent some biscuit pics. I totally missed it as I'm running a one-man show. So Rick, appreciate you sending in the biscuit pics. I don't even think we have a biscuit of the week this week since I'm running solo. So we will get to those next week, and appreciate you sending those. Sorry, I missed the boat on them this week, but promises to get that done. And thanks to Rick for sending those and participating. We love fan engagement. So if you got biscuits that you like, send them our way, because we love doing a biscuit of the week segment. So the next couple of line items here are pretty interesting. So under this settlement, I guess I don't really know what to call it other than the settlement, but there will be a new enforcement entity named the College Sports Commission, which I believe is an LLC. Note, this is not the NCAA. So the NCAA will not be the enforcement arm of, I guess, not college athletics in general. I'm sure there are still things the NCAA will have jurisdiction over. But when it comes to the revenue sharing, specifically, the NCAA will not be involved. That will be handled by this College Sports Commission, which is extremely generic, although appreciated because it gets right to the point. So College Sports Commission will be the new enforcement arm here under this settlement. And basically what they're going to do is two-pronged. One, they're going to make sure that everybody is actually staying under the cap. So they're going to monitor whether schools are making payments to athletes above the $20.5 million threshold that each school is allotted. So that's phase one. Phase two, and kind of an offshoot of monitoring the cap and making sure schools aren't abusing it, is to monitor NIL deals with athletes and essentially make sure that they are not phony. As we all know, what happened once NIL became legalized was not really what was intended, where an athlete is paid money for marketing, promotion, hence, their name, image, and likeness, where brands or companies or corporations, what have you, are paying players to promote something. NIL quickly just became, we're just going to set up a collective. Our boosters are going to pay these guys under the guise of NIL, and they're not actually going to have to do anything other than, maybe show up to a couple booster events, once a semester in the spring, or sign some autographs. And here, thanks, kid, you signed 500 autographs. Here's, $500,000, which is obviously a laughable amount. And, not really in line with a player's actual marketability and something they would be able to attain outside of the fact that they're not being paid for their name, image, and likeness. They're being paid to play football. So the idea here is now the schools are going to pay them to play football, and name, image, and likeness money will be legitimate as it would be in the NFL, where, great, go ahead, get yourself a marketing deal. No problem. You have every right to do that. However, you're not going to get $100,000 or $500,000 marketing deal, for one post on Instagram, or for one appearance at a booster dinner where you sit with the big wig boosters and, walk home with 800 grand because, that's just not a realistic dollar amount to be paid for something like that. So this College Sports Commission has set up something called NIL Go, which is an NIL clearinghouse run by Deloitte, the big accounting and consulting firm, that will evaluate and approve all NIL deals over $600 in value. So again, essentially all NIL deals. I mean, unless you're a small time college athlete promoting a local, sub shop or pizza restaurant on campus, most of your NIL deals are probably going to exceed the $600 threshold. So any NIL deal over $600 will be monitored and evaluated by this NIL Go arm underneath the College Sports Commission. We'll get into potential pitfalls of that later, but again, we're just going over now what's actually happening. And then lastly, of course, if schools are going to be paying players directly, they are getting, revenue share money from a percentage of the revenue that the athletic department brings in. That will come with players signing contracts that should include very similar clauses to any kind of employment contract, whether it's a professional sport or even their coaches, right? Where they're going to include buyouts. There are going to be requirements that the athletes meet, right? So we just saw a situation with Nico's little brother at Arkansas, Madden Iamaleava, where, he signed some NIL deal with Arkansas out of high school, goes to campus, plays spring ball, and then transfers, and Arkansas raises their hand and says, hey, buddy, we're going to need that money back because you didn't even play it down in a Razorback uniform. So I think that kind of stuff will be cleared up here, right? There I'm sure will be stipulations in these contracts that you can't collect your revenue share check if you transfer before the season or whatever the case may be. So that's something that I'm sure will come up. I don't obviously have a ton of details there because I'm not a contract lawyer, nor do I know exactly how these will be structured. But I would imagine most schools, if there isn't a uniform structure that they're going to be required to follow, they will all very quickly come up with what is essentially a uniform structure so that they can kind of work within this new system and they can protect themselves from players, grabbing the money and running for lack of a better term, and also have buyouts, right? So, okay, you want to transfer over there, no problem. Well, we already paid you, whatever, or it's going to cost you X amount to leave this school and transfer. So I imagine we'll see that kind of stuff popping up here pretty soon, again, because this is supposed to begin on July 1st. And I think schools have until like June 30th to opt in. So in theory, if your institution does not want to participate in this, doesn't want to pay athletes, you could. I mean, somebody hop in here, correct me if I'm wrong. I would be shocked if we do see schools that opt out of this, because if you do, you're essentially opting out of any sort of high-level collegiate athletics and would be, relegated, I imagine, to, FCS or Division II or whatever, because, this includes Power 4 and G5 schools, I think. So maybe some of those G5 schools will opt out if they don't have that money, but I guess we'll see. But I would imagine everybody's going to opt in, and then you'll start seeing, contracts, and I'm sure there'll be a ton of news about this come July 1st about how they're being structured, how they're being paid, whatever. I'm sure, again, for reporters, this is like probably just a treasure trove of stories to break. And because you're just opening a whole other Pandora's box here, similar to when the NIL market opened up. I mean, again, think about this. Before NIL was legal, nobody was getting paid, so there was nothing to report. Now, I mean, you have journalists and companies whose it seems like half of the stuff that they report and half of their, their content that they're getting is all related to NIL. How much did this guy get? What's the rumor about this guy? How much is Texas A&M or Ole Miss or Ohio State or Texas paying their roster in total in NIL money? Blah, 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 blah. We're going to get all that, I'm sure, again, with this stuff, with the contracts, with still NIL money outside of it, how this is all working. There will be guys, who have sources that are on this and reporting on it. So just be prepared for that. So that's kind of the summary. I'm going to take a quick drink of water because that was a lot of blabbering about a legal settlement. But the too long didn't read version, or in case you're just hopping on, the House settlement, there's back pay for former athletes, $2.8 billion. Schools now have $20.5 million for the upcoming athletic season to pay their players directly. So direct deposit with, Texas A&M University or University of Alabama, whatever, on the letterhead rather than this phony NIL system that we have. There's a new enforcement agency outside of the NCAA called College Sports Commission. They're charged with enforcing that schools remain under the prescribed cap for the year. Again, in this coming year, $20.5 million. And part of the new enforcement entity is NIL Go, an NIL clearinghouse powered by Deloitte, the consulting/accounting firm that will approve all NIL deals over 600 in value. And in theory, will shoot down NIL deals if they smell any sort of fraudulent dollar amount relative to, the return on investment that the entity would be getting. So that's what we have. Now we can kind of get into what I think this means and what I've seen some other people say about it, because I feel like I've been a broken record on this, and Bossman and I, of course, have talked a lot about it. It's one of those things where I love college football. I'm not going anywhere, but I really am just itching for some kind of stability within the sport, even if that means there are things about the sport that I don't like. I would rather know what it is that's going to be happening to the sport that I love, even if I don't like it that much, than be in this sort of constant limbo that we have been in with NIL, the portal, revenue sharing, whatever. So this was a big domino to fall for now, at least. And then we can kind of talk about, some of the hurdles down the line that I could see coming. So the first one in this domino already fell. I don't know if y'all saw this, but there's already an appeal to the settlement that's come out because my understanding is they're challenging the back pay settlement amount, not the amount of $2.8 billion, but how it's being distributed, because there's this is from the article I read on On3. It just says there's a group of women athletes that are citing Title IX violations for the back pay because of the $2.4 billion. They're claiming the men are taking all of that except $102 million. So somebody smarter than me can do the math there, but $2.298 billion for the men and $100.2 million for the women is a very big gap. I don't know the legality of any of this, but again, this stuff is going to be challenged, and it already is. So, of course, the lawyers representing this group of women are just citing a Title IX violation. So I have no idea whether that will hold up, but certainly seems like it would, based on the old, Title IX regulations that schools were beholden to. We'll see in this new world what Title IX means. I'm not really sure we know at this point, but that's a hurdle they're going to have to cross is Title IX, and they're already being challenged on it. This will not be the last challenge that they get, whether it's an appeal or just an outright lawsuit against this new commission, is who I guess you would target in the lawsuit. But so there's already one challenge there, essentially that the back pay is not fair to the former women athletes. I imagine we could see something very similar when the payments moving forward of the $20.5 million are skewed heavily toward the men, being football and basketball programs, and it's not divided up equally. Again, I don't know how they navigate Title IX. I'm not a Title IX expert, but they either they're going to have to throw it out, or they're going to have some very serious lawyers billing some very serious hours and come up with a legitimate argument as to why this is, this is right or fair, because I think that's a big hurdle. There's two other main hurdles that I see coming that I think are just ripe for lawsuits with this new settlement. So the first one is the salary cap. So I don't know how, the parties involved in this settlement came up with the 22% share of revenue. But what I do know is the athletes, the players who are actually going to be receiving that 22% did not have a say in that number. So compare this to the NFL, for example. The revenue sharing agreement that the NFL has between the owners and the players is negotiated between the owners and the NFL Players Association. So all parties agreed to whatever number it is. So whether ultimately, the players or the owners got the better end of the bargain, it really doesn't matter because both entities put pen to paper and signed on. In our case here in college athletics, of course, the players did not. So again, I'm not a lawyer. I don't know how you prove this, but it would make sense to me that players could come or could, bring forth a lawsuit against this new college sports commission and say, we didn't agree to this 22%. We think we should be getting more, and then take them to court. And obviously, once you get to court, who knows what happens? But from where I sit, that seems like a relatively sound argument, being that we had no say in what we're getting paid. Why is it the number that it is? So I think that is a hurdle that they're going to have to face probably sooner rather than later. Maybe it'll take a couple of years. I don't know. But again, especially as revenues rise and as all this stuff becomes more of an open book and everybody knows how much these athletic departments are making, I would imagine that the players at some point will raise their voice or raise their hand and say, hey, we never agreed to this 22% number. Why is it that this is our salary cap? Why can we only make this amount when we think we should be making more? I'm just going to look it up real quick to see what the NFL players' revenue share percentage is, to see again whether it's comparable. So okay, here we go. NFL players currently receive a minimum of 48% of all NFL revenue, according to the NFL Players Association. So again, you have a situation where these college athletes are getting 22%. And they're not dumb. They have Google, they have phones. Lawyers certainly are not dumb. They can look at that. And I know college sports is not the NFL, and there's a lot of other, expenses and things that go into this. But the let's see. Sorry, I'm just responding to Rick. That's a turkey fan over my right shoulder. I don't know if any of y'all are turkey hunters out there, but I certainly am. So shoot me a DM if you're into turkey hunting. We can talk turkey hunting on the side. But yeah, so the college players again. I don't know how you look at this and don't think even though we're getting paid, this is great. We got a raw deal. We're getting 22%. NFL gets 48%. I don't know what MLB and the NBA players get, but it's probably a lot more than 22%. So I foresee that being a hurdle that they're going to have to get over at some point. And again, maybe they can. Maybe it's justified, the 22%. I don't know. All I know is the players never agreed to it. So they're going to have to justify it one way or another because it's not going to go unchallenged. The next legal hurdle that I see here is with the NIL clearinghouse, NIL Go. So personally, I really like this aspect of the settlement because I don't like the freewheeling, landscape of NIL where guys are getting paid hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars for not really doing anything NIL related or marketing related. It's just, hey, please come sign with our school, and here's a 6 to 7 figure deal that you'll sign, and we'll pay you. And along the way, you'll do a couple things. You'll sign some autographs, but nothing worth millions of dollars. So I don't like that aspect of the current system. So this NIL clearinghouse to me is good because we should have somebody evaluating these NIL deals and saying, hey, you cannot pay somebody that much money for showing up at 2 booster events and signing 500 autographs because those don't add up, right? The payment there does not equal the service that the athlete is providing. So I like that aspect of it. But again, there's going to be issues that come out of this because, first of all, the players also did not agree to this, right? Again, to compare this to the NFL, there is not a name, image, and likeness clearinghouse in the NFL evaluating this stuff. They don't have the problems that college athletics does, so they don't need to. But NFL players are not restricted in their marketing deals by some third-party agency that evaluates them and tells the NFL players whether this is fair or not, or whether they're being overpaid, and we're not going to allow you to take this marketing deal. So the players didn't agree to this. And I think what's going to happen is there's going to be an NIL deal that this NIL clearinghouse is going to say, hey, based on our fair market algorithm, you're being overpaid by $200,000, and this is a bogus deal, and you cannot accept it, or it will go against the excess. So if our fair market value is $50,000 and they're paying you $200,000, that $150,000 will come out of the revenue share. That's the deal according to the settlement. So I just imagine as soon as that happens, as soon as this clearinghouse says, hey, this is a bogus deal, it doesn't match up to what our algorithm says, this is what, this marketing deal should be worth, this is what this athlete should be paid by this entity, the athlete is going to turn around and sue and say, this is BS. I did not agree to this, third-party monitoring, A, and then B, they could challenge the algorithm, and C, they could just say, who are you to tell me or limit how much money I can make? If this person or business wants to pay me $500,000 and they're only going to require me to show up to 3 booster meetings and go to a, kids camp, that's their call. And I want the money, and we're both agreeing on this. You shouldn't have any say in this. And so I see both sides of it because I can kind of see that too, right? Where, hey, if everybody knows what they're getting involved in, it doesn't matter if you're getting overpaid. If they sign the dotted line, then great. You just signed a great deal for yourself and you're overpaid, but that is what it is. So I just see that, although I like the idea of it and I like the fact that these NIL deals are finally going to be monitored and actually, hopefully, in line with marketing, name, image, and likeness, deliverables. I just don't know if this is going to hold up when somebody sues this clearinghouse or this what's it called, College Sports Commission. All of this, of course, would be solved with collective bargaining, with the players having a say in this. Now, we don't have time to get into that because the collective bargaining in these professional leagues is done by the players' associations. There, of course, isn't, at least not that I'm aware of, is a college athlete players association, and I don't even know how that would work. How they would get that done with the number of athletes. And I mean, you're just talking a very, very, very big undertaking. So whether that comes down the pike or not, I don't anticipate it will soon, but these type of issues could be solved with collective bargaining, because if the players had a say in this and they agreed to a 22% revenue share and they agreed to an NIL clearinghouse monitoring their marketing deals, then they have no legal recourse when they get upset about it. They can be upset about it, but they signed the dotted line, so there's nothing they can do. In the scenario we have now, they didn't agree to any of this. So legally, I think there's going to be a lot of gray area that they can challenge because they didn't have a seat at the table, and it's not going to be that difficult for lawyers to poke holes in this and argue on behalf of players that, hey, 22% is not the right amount. They should be getting more. And, hey, this NIL clearinghouse doesn't have a right to limit my client's ability to earn money in NIL. They don't have the right or the authority to limit how much this guy or gal can make. So those are two hurdles that I see coming very soon. But again, to try and wrap this up nicely, as I said before, I've really been, begging on this show since we started for somebody to take the wheel and just bring some structure and stability to college athletics. And this doesn't do it because I think there's going to be more hurdles put in place, some unintended consequences of this settlement. But I think it's a step in the direction toward stability. Again, I will let you be the judge of whether it's a step in the right direction or the wrong direction. There's a lot about the direction of college sports that troubles me personally, but I think in terms of stability, this is a step in the right direction. We'll see how long it's a step in the right direction and how long it takes for some of these challenges and lawsuits and appeals to bubble up. But it's a good thing for the health of the sport, especially college football, that athletes are now able to be paid by these schools and they can be under contract, so that hopefully this transfer portal stuff is reined in a little bit and the NIL stuff is hopefully reined in a little bit, and you see a little bit more, just uniformity, stability, equality, etc. across the sports, college sports landscape. And I hope this will accomplish some of that. Again, I'm a little bit skeptical, but I'm hopeful that it will get us part of the way there. And then ultimately what ends up happening, 5-10 years from now, who knows? But I hope for now we have a little bit more stability because of this settlement. So we'll see. But again, I'm sure we'll be talking more about this. However, I put in the newsletter this morning because as I'm about to wrap up here, and I think Rick brings up a good point here. He says he's waiting on the first player strike, which Rick is spot on, because I think that's probably coming again for a lot of the reasons I just detailed about maybe why they would strike, because they didn't agree to any of this. But my goodness, that might push me over the edge if we had a player strike in collegiate athletics. That would not be good for for me mentally. I'd be very, very distraught, disappointed. And if they took away, like if we had a player strike during the college football season, things would not be going well for me and probably all of y'all watching. So hopefully we don't get there. But Rick, you're probably hitting the nail on the head there. That will happen sooner rather than later. So as I sit here and talk about, hopefully this brings stability. Rick brings up a good point that maybe it won't, but we'll continue to cover this, as more news comes out. Like I said, I think coming into that July 1st deadline, and just I guess moving forward. I mean, this will be the first year that it's ever happened, right? So we'll learn a lot over the next few weeks, and then over the next year around how this works, how different schools handle it, how the contracts look, how penal are they if you transfer? What kind of money would they have to pay back? What are the buyouts? So there's a lot of things that are going to be bubbling up here in the next couple weeks, months, and year, even outside of potential, outside lawsuits, just within the confines of the new settlement. What does that look like? So we'll continue to talk about it. But before I close out here, I wanted to bring up one thing, and that is we are 72 days until college football. So thank the almighty Lord, we are close, just over 2 months away from college football being back, because I'm somewhat interested in this stuff, the House settlement kind of stuff or legal stuff, because it impacts the sports that I love. But I love the sports, college sports, because I like to watch the games and I like to talk about the games. I really, do not enjoy sitting down and talking for what has now been 47 minutes, probably 30 minutes of which were about a house settlement. I don't enjoy talking about a legal court case near as much as I do talking about actual games and football and the great fans that we have across the SEC. So, like I said, 72 days until college football is back. That'll be week 0. And then the week 1 kickoff is the following week, the last week of August, which, everybody will be involved in and will be just a heck of a time. So with that, we can close out the show. And yeah, Rick brings up another good point. We do have SEC Media Days coming next month, so that's always a good time. But I'll close it out. Appreciate y'all tuning in tonight. Again, I'm Hammer with Biscuits and SEC. If you're new here, we're just a couple guys that love the SEC, mostly college football. We write a newsletter. It goes out once a week, every Wednesday during the off season, twice a week during the season. My co-host, Boss Man, I think should be back next week, so we'll both be here for that. Be sure to tune in tomorrow night to SEC After Dark, another show we do with our buddies over at the After Dark Network. They do an excellent job, and pretty much all of them now have shows of their own. So if you're not tuning in to what they do, please give them a watch. And as I said, tune in to our collaborative show with them tomorrow, SEC After Dark at 9 p.m. Eastern time on Thursdays. We'll be back next Wednesday, 7 p.m. Eastern, as usual. Thank y'all. Good night, and appreciate y'all tuning in.